welcome back to another session on women's writing. So we have completed She Rose to His Requirements by Emily Dickinson. Now, as for the questions, I discussed the title of the poem. How does the poet show the disappointment of woman? Comment on the rhythm, praise male dominancy in the poem. All this were discussed. Now let's begin. Aunt Jennifer's Tiger by Adrienne Rich. Now, Adrienne Rich was an American poet, and she was born on May 16th, 1929 in Maryland, US. She is an American poet, an essayist, and a feminist. She has been considered one of the most widely read and also influential poets of the second half of the 20th century. Adrienne Rich's early poetic influence has stemmed from her father, who encouraged her not only to read but also to write her own poetry. Now, her important collections, she has written several collections, including Snapshots of a Daughter-in-Law, which was published in 1963, and Leaflets, published in 1969. Some of her themes are, in fact, about themes like women's role in society, racism, and the Vietnam War. Rich has published numerous collections of poems and is also the author of several books in prose, including Arts of the Possible, Essays and Conversations, published in 2001. What is Found There, Notebooks on Poetry and Politics, published in 1993, and Of Woman Born, Motherhood as Experience and Institution, published in 1986. Now, she came from a very conservative Southern American family, and therefore Adrienne Rich's poem Aunt Jennifer's Tiger clearly reflects this gender struggle. It is a feminist poem in which the poet criticizes the male-dominated world for frightening and oppressing Aunt Jennifer, leaving her no alternative but to create an alternate world of her own, of freedom for herself while she's sewing. Sewing is, please don't pronounce it as sewing, it is sewing. S-E-W-I-N-G. Stitching is pronounced sewing, not sewing. The poem concerns itself mainly with a woman struggling to accept indignities of her daily life through the image of Aunt Jennifer, weighed down by an oppressive marriage. Aunt Jennifer must find a way to deal with her unhappy and submissive station in life. And she does so by sewing exciting and memorable works of art. Sewing is, in fact, her means of escape, and which again her husband scolds for wasting time. The first stanza of the poem, as we begin the poem, the first stanza, you would find a description of the fearless tigers which Aunt Jennifer has stitched or sewed in the tapestry, or which she creates in needlepoint. The freedom and dignity that these tigers, which are embroidered on the tapestry, is contrasted with the restrictions of marriage, symbolized by the wedding band that weighs down Aunt Jennifer's fingers as she sews. The themes are finally resolved in the last stanza. Even death will not free Aunt Jennifer from her ordeals. But the tigers that she has embroidered will continue to appear proud and unafraid. They will remain proud, unafraid. Aunt Jennifer is symbolic of women as a whole rather than one individual. So it has a universal effect here. So let's begin the poem. Aunt Jennifer's tigers prance across a screen, bright topaz denizens of a world of green. They do not fear the men beneath the tree. They pace in sleek chivalric certainly. Aunt Jennifer's fingers fluttering through her wool find even the ivory needle hard to pull. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. When Aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie, still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. The tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing proud and unafraid. So that's the poem. So let's break down into stanza and let's analyze stanza wise. So the first one, Aunt Jennifer's tiger prance across a screen, bright topaz denizens of a world of green. They do not fear the men beneath the tree. They pace in sleek chivalric certainly. So the poem begins by talking about a lady whom she addresses as Aunt Jennifer. Perhaps it could be Adrienne Ritz's own aunt, and she must have seen the difficult marriage, the abusive marriage that her aunt had to put up with. So here Aunt Jennifer is embroidering on a piece of cloth. It could be a tablecloth or a wall hanging, whatever, a tapestry, whatever. The pattern is that of many tigers, shows tigers who are moving and prancing. Aunt Jennifer's tigers prance across a screen. So the screen here is a wall, or it could be the wall or the tablecloth, whatever. Okay, that frame, it is prancing across a screen. So it could, perhaps it would be a tapestry, and it is now, it is been framed. So you will find these tigers prancing across the screen. Okay, they are roaming around and they are well groomed, and they are roaming around, they are prancing. The word prance shows that the tiger is prancing, or the tigers are prancing across that frame, that panel. And you will find that she has embroidered several tigers around all over the fabric. They are bright yellow in color, like the color of the topaz stone, and that is metaphorical. And the tigers, that is bright topaz denizens of the world. So the bright topaz denizens of the world, that's an imagery. It enhances the symbolic effect. We can actually picture these bright tigers, these yellow striped tigers. They are moving around. So this bright topaz is metaphorical. It is a metaphor. Okay, it is metaphorical. And also, and the next one, bright denizens of the world, inhabitants. Denizens means occupants or inhabitants. The world of green. So their dense green forest is their home. The forest background that she has embroidered is their home. They are proud and they are fearless citizens of the world, of the forest. Okay, so that's why it's metaphorical. They are yellow in color, they are bright yellow in color, and they show that confidence. They are They are confident, they are proud, and they are walking and prancing across the dense green forest at the background in their home. They are proud and they are fearless citizens of the forest. Here there is a contrast between Aunt Jennifer's tiger and Aunt Jennifer herself. The tigers are fearless, but Aunt Jennifer, who is embroidering them, is not so. She is scared, she is oppressed, she is a suppressed woman. The tigers are elegant, they are shining, and they are full of chivalric grace, gentleman's grace. You know, what is chivalric? Look at the word chivalric. What does the word chivalry, or with whom does it associate with? It is mostly associated with, chivalry is mostly associated with knights and knighthood. And so men, right? Patriarchy, men. So here she shows the tigers as elegant, shining, and full of chivalric grace. So her tigers are full of masculine in the sense they are full of chivalric grace. They are proud, they are strong, they are fearless. So here it's not about being male, but rather it is about that there is a so Aunt Jennifer's tigers, there it is what she wants to become. It is her inner psyche actually. What Aunt Jennifer actually wants to become, that is being transferred to Aunt Jennifer's tigers. So what she cannot become, that proud freedom, that feeling of boldness, which she can never take because she's scared of her husband. She's in the control of the evil patriarchy, and therefore she cannot let her loose from this evil patriarchal system, and hence she gives this feeling, this bold feeling that she wants to be to the tigers whom she has embroidered on the panel. So now just read that and see. Aunt Jennifer's tigers prance across a screen, bright topaz denizens of a world of green. They do not fear beneath the tree. They don't fear anybody. They do not fear men beneath the tree. So here it is a reference to what? They are not scared of anyone. They are not afraid of man standing under the tree. In fact, man should be afraid of them. So that shows how bold and fearful the tigers are. As I told you, it is the inner psyche of Aunt Jennifer that is transferred into the into her tigers, or into her embroidery that she has stitched. What she wants to be and what she cannot be is being transferred onto the embroidery, and therefore her tigers are fearless. They don't fear any men. In reality, it's a sharp contrast. The tigers and Aunt Jennifer's tigers are exactly different from what Aunt Jennifer is. Aunt Jennifer fears her husband. She is oppressed and oppressed by her husband. She does not have a voice of her own, an individuality. She does not have an individuality of her own. She cannot take any decisions of her own either. But her tigers, on the other hand, they are free. They roam around freely. They are strong, they are bold, they do not fear. They pace, they move slowly, they pace in chivalric manner, in chivalric grace. Now let's move on to the second stanza. Aunt Jennifer's fingers fluttering through her wools find even the ivory needle hard to pull. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. So the tone, the next stanza, the tone is slightly different. Her hands are moving about fast, and she's creating beautiful images. Her fingers are fluttering to create beautiful images of tigers. But the movement is not an easy and smooth one. So here it is an indirect reference of the poet to the feminist movements. Okay, the movement is not a very easy and smooth one because her hands are pulled down. She finds the ivory needle very difficult or hard to pull through the wool. Okay, and the massive weight of Uncle's wedding band, which is the wedding band here, the wedding ring, sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. So one reason that she cannot pull it out, of course the ivory needle, to pull it out from the tapestry, that is very difficult. It is symbolic because one, the movement itself is very difficult to pull out. It speaks about a feminist movement here. Another one is because the wedding ring sits heavily on her fingers, because she is suppressed by the patriarchal society, because she is suppressed emotionally, both physically and emotionally suppressed by her husband, that she is not able to move around freely. She is not able to express what she is, or express her desires and bring out her individuality. The lady's fingers are trembling with fear. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Jennifer's hand, and Jennifer's fingers fluttering through her wool finds even the ivory needle hard to pull. Now this fluttering can also be a reference to the fear that she has because she is pursuing her hobby in her free time. This hobby of stitching or embroidering. And this is how she let loose her emotion. So several people during those times, we studied with the Victorian, the feminist novelists, many of them sought to various hobbies to escape from this pressure. Some stitched, some would write poems, some would write short stories, some would engage in some other activities, but that was all confined into the four walls of the house. Again, the stitching, if you look at this embroidery or stitching, it's all to do with women, it's all to do with putting her in her room and not letting her out. Perhaps Aunt Jennifer had several other traits or characteristics where she could have achieved greatness, but that is denied to her because the tigers that she has sewed or embroidered itself shows her nature, what she wants to be but is not able to achieve, her boldness, her freedom. So here probably she would be, there is a possibility that she would be pursuing her hobby during her free time, and her husband could scold her or abuse her for wasting time, because these things are like, she is considered as an object of, pleasure, an object that would, a servant that would keep his house clean, make it look like a home, so that when he approaches, when he comes home after a hard day's labor, he will be able to find a heaven there. Victorian idealisms. So she is or she is one who should, again, if you connect it with Emily Dickinson's poem, she is one who should rise to the occasion. She is the one who should rise to his requirements, whatever it is. If she is having a bad day, if she is finding it, or if she is having headache or stomach ache, or if she is not well, she should leave all that aside and tend to her husband. So the needle is heavy and it is fluttering. So as I told you, it is a reference to the difficulty of movement. It could be a reference to the feminist movement itself, which has started, which has begun, but yet to achieve its prominence. It's still struggling. It could also throw light on how women are abused by their men. Even a free time hobby is something that is looked down upon, that she should need the permission from her husband even to do that. So all this can be several references. And the words, the wedding band, as a band is as though a band brought by her husband. Like a band shows a tag, or a band shows ownership, right? Likewise, instead of using the word wedding ring, she has used the word wedding band. So it's like an ownership of Aunt Jennifer to her husband. And she's still burdened by the weight of the ring, which means the never-ending problems and encirclement, trappings. It's a kind of trap that has fallen upon her and now that she's married to her, she's been trapped. She has been burdened by several obligations of married life, and she has become a slave to her husband. She has become the property of her husband. She is an object, and she's been living a life as a slave, and she's fully into fulfilling the demands of her husband, and she looks totally distraught. She's worn out by age. Aunt Jennifer's fingers fluttering through her wool finds even the ivory needle hard to pull. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. Right? So now she's terrified. She's all completely the slave of her husband, and she's sitting there only to fulfill her the demands of her husband. Even a hobby that she pursues is done secretly, and perhaps that is the reason why she's fluttering. Okay, let's move on to the third stanza. No? When aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie, still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. The tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing, proud and unafraid. So, when Aunt Jennifer is dead, she's already worn out by age. Now, Aunt Jennifer, when she is dead, her terrified hands will still be ringed with ordeals. See, her terrified hands. When aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie. So even when she is dead, her hands, it is described as terrified hands because it has gone through a lot of hardships and difficulties. So it is a suggestive of abusive marriages. There are so many abusive marriages. Even now, even to this very day. The trouble and torment that the woman has to put up with is in fact very she has to put up with a lot of problems. And certain times things are beyond her. The abusive marriages are growing at a very faster pace also. Several, so now that we have divorces and separations, that has to an extent come as a help to such women. But again, yeah, it is you need to check both the sides before speaking against them, because now we don't know who's at fault, but generally it is women are the ones who are mostly prone to such abusive marriages. Yes, I don't state that men are also abused. There are several instances where men are abused. Men they lead a terrifying life in the hands of such women, but that they are again exceptional cases. But mostly women are subject to such kind of torture. Yes, so these terrified hands of her, even when she is dead, the terrified hands of her will still bear these rings, will still have these ordeals. Now, what are ordeals? Ordeals are the vows that you take in marriage. So, even after death, she is still her husband's property. She has to wait, her soul is also her husband's property. So even after death, she's ringed with these ordeals that she has mastered by. So it has become a kind of thing that is attached to her. Even after her death, it doesn't go away. She has been mastered, or she has mastered this right from the day she was married and till her death. Even after her death, it refuses to go away. These ordeals are there or become a part and parcel of her, both her body as well as her soul. The tigers, on the other hand, in the panel, the woman, the one who embroidered them, is dead and no more, but still the tigers in the panel that she made, or that she embroidered, will go on prancing proud and fearless. This shows her innermost desire of being strong, being fearless, which has been overpowered by her husband. Probably her ordeal will end upon her death. The ring shall remain still on her finger, on her hand, and her husband will roll over her and even after her death. So the rule is not yet over. She believes that this will all end with her death, but even then, even after the death, she goes to the grave bearing this ring, bearing this band, that she is a part and parcel of her husband. Or not part and parcel, she is owned by her husband. So she goes, even at her grave, she goes with this ordeal. She is not free from it. She is not freed from it. Even her soul is again kept in chains, and she is the part, or she is the property of her husband. So the rule of her husband over her is not yet over. After death, her desire for freedom and fearlessness, though she cannot achieve it, shall remain alive in the tigers which she has embroidered. So that is the reason, perhaps the reason why she has embroidered these tigers could be because that is where she brings her what she wants to become, her inner psyche. Her strong, fearless woman is transferred onto her tigers, so that through them, she shall be able to achieve them. Because in reality, she cannot. She is overpowered by her husband. All right, so that's it with with Aunt Jennifer's tigers. Let's we shall discuss the question answers in the WhatsApp group. So, thank you and keep safe.